Okay, our topic in chapter 7 is the cost of... Doğum günün kutlu olsun Tunahan. Pekala, ne güzel bir gün. The cost of production. In chapter 6, we learned production function in short time and in the short run and in the long run, and we said that the short run and the long run is not defined with time intervals like 1 month, 1 year, more than 1 year, less than 1 year. It's not the case for the microeconomics courses. We are defining the short run and the long run according to the variability of the production factors, we said. If there is no time to change any of the production factors, then it's called as very short run. If at least one production factor is variable for the firm, it's short run. And if all the factors are free to change, the firm is free to change all the production factors or inputs, it's called as long run. That's the big important definition of the short run and long run in microeconomics courses. And the cost of production is also classified in short run costs and the long run cost of the production. Firstly, let's define some concepts about the cost of production. The first classification for the cost of production is the accounting cost versus economic cost. The accounting cost is simply the monetary payments of the firm to the production factors. For example, the firm is using labor, capital, natural resources, let's put N, and the other production factors, and paying, for example, labor, wage, capital is paying to rent, for not rent, sorry, interest. For capital, it's paying interest. We are putting R for it and the W for it. And for natural resources, rent, and etc. These monetary payments are called as accounting costs. These costs are just can be documented by the firm. And the economic cost is a wider concept which also includes the accounting cost, but also the opportunity cost of doing this business. So the economic cost of this economic cost of the production is just including the accounting cost, but also it's included here the opportunity cost of doing this business, opportunity cost. We use accounting cost and economic cost concepts when we are calculating the profit, because we have two types of profit, as you can guess from here, two types of profit. The one is the accounting profit, which is the difference between the total revenue minus explicit costs. Accounting costs can be also named as the accounting costs can be also named as explicit costs. And also we have the concept of economic profit that we will talk about very in detail in chapter 8 in perfectly competitive market. An economic profit is the difference between total revenue minus both explicit plus implicit costs. Explicit cost, as we said before, accounting cost, and the implicit cost of the production is the opportunity cost. So the sum of explicit and the implicit cost is called as economic cost. So the economic profit simply is the difference between total revenue and the economic cost. So from these definitions, you can understand that for an accountant, a firm can have a positive profit, but in real terms, for an economist, it cannot be a positive economic profit. It's possible. For example, suppose that the accounting cost of doing this business, the payment to the labor capital, the payment, all the monetary payments of the firm, let's say accounting cost of doing this business, let's say 10,000 Turkish lira in a month. And suppose that the total revenue of the firm is 20,000 Turkish lira in a month. So when you go to an accountant, he will say that you have a 10,000 Turkish lira profit for a month for this situation, with these numbers. But in real terms, actually, the firm must consider the implicit cost of doing this business. For example, if this owner of the firm doing another business, the best alternative of doing this business will earn, let's say, 12,000 Turkish lira in a month. Bu işi yapmasaydı da bu işin en iyi alternatifini yapıyor olsaydı diyelim ki bir firma, bu firmanın sahibi olan kişi diyelim ki o işten 12.000 lira kazanacaktı. Bu ne demek oluyor? Bu işi yapıyor olmanın fırsat maliyeti, opportunity cost, or implicit cost of doing this business is 12,000 Turkish lira in a month. So for an accountant, we cannot consider the opportunity cost of doing this business because it cannot be documented. Herhangi bir faturası yok, o parayı kazanacağının bir garantisi yok, belgesi yok. Bir muhasebeci için bu işi yapmasaydım da şu işi yapsaydım onun yerinin bir anlamı yok. Muhasebeciler sadece belgelendirilebilen kazançlarla ve ödemelerle ilgileniyorlar. Dolayısıyla da onların tanımına göre bu opportunity cost'un dikkate alınmasına imkan yok. Ama iktisatçılar bir yapılan işin maliyetini hesaplarken aynı zamanda o işin fırsat maliyetinin de dikkate alınması gerektiğini söylüyorlar. Dolayısıyla da bu işin fırsat maliyeti eğer söylediğiniz gibi 12.000 lira ise evet muhasebeciye gittiğiniz zaman size der ki senin accounting profit'in 10.000 liradır. 10.000 lira kar ediyorsun ayda. Ama bir iktisatçıya gittiğiniz zaman size der ki hayır sen aslında aylık 2.000 lira negatif profittesin, zarardasın. And another important thing that we need to define, the zero economic profit is called as the normal profit. Zero economic profit is called as the normal profit. If economic profit, what does it mean, the zero economic profit? It is called as, why is it normal? How can be is it normal? Bu arada chat penceresi yok oldu. Ben şimdi kendime konuşuyor değilim değil mi arkadaşlar? Seste bir sıkıntı yok. Beni duyuyorsunuz değil mi?
Duyuyoruz hocam, evet.
Tamam, duyuyorsunuz. Okey. Bakalım. Tamam. Bakalım Yağmur. Tamam. Hangi işi yaparsan yap aynı profite sahip olacaksın. Evet, hangi işi yaparsan yap değil ama bu işin en iyi alternatifini yapıyor olsan da zaten bu kar edeceksin. Yani ekonomik profitin, iktisadi karın sıfır olması demek aslında firma hiç kar etmiyor demek değil. Ne kadar kar ediyor demek? Firma elde ettiği hasılatla, total revenue'suyla parasal ödemelerini yapmış. İşçisinin parasını ödemiş, işte bütün ham maddelerinin, kirasını, her şeyini ödemiş. Diğer taraftan implicit cost'u da karşılamış. Tam o kadar. Implicit cost ne? Bu işin en iyi alternatifinin getirisi. Dolayısıyla bu işin en iyi alternatifi kadar kazanıyor demektir. Dolayısıyla ekonomik profitin sıfır olması haline biz normal profit adını veriyoruz. Bunlar 8. ünitede daha detaylı bir şekilde kullanacağımız kavramlar. Dolayısıyla da şimdiden bir hazırlık yapmış olalım bu kavramlara. Dolayısıyla maliyetler açısından yaptığımız ilk sınıflandırma accounting cost versus economic cost sınıflandırması. Another classification of the cost can be the short run cost. The classification of the short run cost can be called as the short run cost, let's say. Can be classified as the fixed costs and the variable costs. Please remember, here let's stress, let's emphasize the short run concept. Let's remember our production function, simple production function for only two inputs. Here, Q is a function of labor and the capital. The firm is using only two production factors, labor and capital, and we define short run where at least one of these factors inputs is variable and the other is constant. So in the short run, generally labor is the variable factor and the capital is the constant factor. So the payments that is made to the variable factor is called as variable cost, and the payments that is made to the fixed factor is called as fixed cost. This is one definition of the short run costs. Because in the short run some factors are fixed, they constant, the payments that is made to the fixed factors is called as fixed cost, and the payments that is made to the variable factors is called as variable cost. And as you can guess, we define long run production, the time interval which allows both labor and capital, all of the inputs are variables. So in the long run, because all factors, all inputs are variable, we can say that there is no fixed cost in the long run. There is no fixed cost in the long run. All costs are variable. Only variable costs we have in the long run because all factors are variable. So here we are talking about, in the second classification, we are talking about the short run costs, and some short run costs are fixed costs and some of them are the variable costs. They are sourced from the definition of the production function. Another definition for the fixed cost is that it is fixed, these costs are fixed and they are independent from the level of output. So the fixed cost, let's use total fixed cost, total fixed cost, and here the level of output Q. The fixed costs are just independent from the level of output, which means that we have the fixed amount of these costs for the zero amount of output. Let's say it's 1,000 Turkish lira, the fixed cost. And for if you are producing 1 unit, you still have 1,000. And if you are producing, let's say, 10 units or 1,000 or 1 million units, whatever, the total fixed cost will not change, because in the short run, these are just arised or sourced from the fixed factors. And in the short run, it's not possible to change these fixed factors. So the total amount of fixed costs will not change according to the level of output. These are the costs which is independent from the level of output, we can say. And let's come to the variable cost. So if as you can guess again, the variable costs are the costs dependent to the level of output. There is a positive relationship between the level of output and the total variable cost. Firstly, it will start from the origin, which means that if there is no output, no variable input will be used. In that case, there will be no cost for the variable factor. So when the firm starting to produce output, when the Q increases, the total variable cost increases, but it's not a normal or linear increase. It's a third degree function in normal cases. And this shape is just coming from the shape of the short-run production function. We will relate both short-run production function and short-run cost functions later on. But just for now, it's enough to know that there is a positive relationship between the level of output and the total variable cost. So this is total variable cost, and this is total fixed cost. And of course, the sum of the total fixed cost and the total variable cost in the short run is giving us the total cost of production. So total cost is sum of fixed costs and variable cost. So when you sum these two functions, fixed cost and the variable cost, we will get the total cost function just like that. Here Q and here total cost. Firstly, when there is no output, if the Q is 0, we know that there will be no variable cost, but we will have a fixed cost. So the total cost function, our total cost function, will start from the total fixed cost here. And then we will add, when the level of output increases, we will add the total variable cost to the fixed cost. Just like that. Let's draw also total variable cost here. Of course, they are parallel to each other. This is total variable cost, and this is total cost. And of course, as you can get again, the vertical difference between two of them will give us what? What is the vertical difference between them? Total cost and total variable cost. It's total fixed cost, of course. Okay, the vertical, they are parallel to each other, and the vertical difference between total cost and total variable cost is giving us the total fixed cost. For example, if the total fixed cost of production is 1,000 Turkish lira, and for example, for 10 units of output, if the total cost of production is 1,500 Turkish lira, this means that if Q is 10, the total cost of production is 1,500. It means that the 1,000 of these costs is the fixed cost, And the remaining part, the 500 Turkish lira, is the variable cost. Well, continue. The third classification of the costs will be the marginal costs and the average costs. Here. The third classification of the cost, again, short run cost, let's say. Another classification is marginal costs and average costs. There are three types of average costs. That's why it's plural. Start with the defining marginal cost. It's MC. As you know, all of the marginal concepts in microeconomics is the ratio of changes. Which changes we are talking about here, do you think? What will we write here and here? Yes, Tunahan, you are right. Change in total cost over change in output, the level of output. It means that the marginal cost can be defined as if the level of output changes 1 unit, how the total cost will change. But please remember, the total cost was the sum of total fixed cost and the total variable cost. Here we said total cost is the sum of total fixed cost and the total variable cost. When the level of output changes 1 unit, are there any change in the total fixed cost? No, it's fixed, just like its name is fixed. When the level of output changes 1 unit, there will be no change in the fixed cost, but only the changing thing is the variable cost. So the marginal cost of production can be also defined as if the firm produces 1 more unit of output, its total variable cost will change, because total cost is the sum of fixed and variable costs, and when the level of output changes, there will be no change in the fixed cost. So the marginal cost can be also defined as if the level of output changes 1 unit, how total variable cost changes. And mathematically, we know that all marginal concepts is showing us representing the derivatives. So the marginal cost can be also defined as the first derivative of the total cost function for the level of output, or the first derivative of the total variable cost function for the level of output. And in geometrics, we said the marginals means, all marginals means slope. So the marginal cost can also be defined as the slope of the total cost function, or slope of the total variable cost function, because they are parallel to each other, so their slopes at a certain level of output are just equal. So the marginal cost is also the slope of the tangency that is drawn to the total cost or total variable cost function. When we come to the average cost side, we said there are 3 types of average cost. The first one is the average fixed cost. Average fixed cost. When you see the word average anywhere in microeconomics, please remember we are talking about units, unit cost. cost of producing 1 unit. So average fixed cost is the fixed cost per unit of production. So to be able to calculate average fixed cost, we will divide total fixed cost to the level of output. Average fixed cost is the ratio of total fixed cost over Q. 1 unit, the fixed cost per unit of production. The second one is the average variable cost. Average variable cost. So it is the ratio of total variable cost over the level of output. So it's the unit variable cost of production. And the third one, in some textbooks, it's called ATC, average total cost, but I prefer to use average cost only, AC, which is the unit cost of production, total cost over Q. And of course, average cost, just like total cost is the sum of total fixed cost and the total variable cost, the average cost also sum of the average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Okay, now we will talk about the shapes of these cost functions. In normal case, if the firm have a third degree production function in the short run, please remember the shape of the short run production function. It was a third degree function. Here the variable input and here level of output. Please remember, we were starting from the origin. It increases increasingly, then it increases diminishingly, and then it decreases. This was the short run production function. And because of this shape of the short run production function, in normal cases, of course, there are exceptions or the different functional types, but in normal cases, we have a third degree cost functions, total cost functions. So suppose that a short run total cost function is given as A plus B Q squared plus C Q olmadı. Pardon, yanlış oldu. A plus B Q plus C Q squared plus D Q Q. Suppose that a short-run total cost function is given in this form. And here in this case, which part is the fixed cost, is showing us the total fixed cost, and which part is the total variable cost? Let's divide it firstly as total fixed cost and the total variable cost. Remember, the total fixed cost is the cost which is independent from the level of output. While the level of output Q is 0, the firm will pay these fixed costs. So which part is representing the total fixed cost in this function? Okay. Yes, exactly. A, which is independent from Q, is the total fixed cost of the production, and the remaining part is just dependent to the level of output. Output Q is the total variable cost. And let's start with the marginal cost. The marginal cost is the first derivative of the total cost function for Q, or it is the first derivative of the total variable cost function for Q, because when you derive a constant number for Q, you will get 0. So it's just the same. Okay. So what is the marginal cost function in that case? B plus 2 times CQ plus 3 times DQ squared, right? Okay. So we have a second degree marginal cost function. Second degree marginal cost function. What can be the shape of the marginal cost in that case? Do you think? What is the shape of the marginal cost? It's parabolic. Good. U-shape or inverted U-shape? Can you tell me? It depends on what? It depends on the expected value of the parameter, right? If d is a positive number, it will be a U-shaped function. If d is a minus, then it will be a inverted U-shape. So in normal cases, d is positive and the inverted U-shape, we have not inverted, we have U-shaped marginal cost function. So the expected value of d is always positive. And the marginal cost function is U-shaped function. We will draw. Only find the functional forms, then we will draw in the second part of the lesson. What about average fixed cost? Let's tell me the average fixed cost. It is total fixed cost over Q, right? It's A over Q. So what's the shape of the average fixed cost? Is it linear? Is it linear, do you think? Not P, sorry. Average fixed cost. Total fixed cost was horizontal, we said, parallel to the horizontal axis. But here, when Q increases, suppose that the A was 1,000 in our example before, and if Q is 1, for example, then average fixed cost is 1,000 over 1 is 1,000. If Q is 2, level of output is 2, then average fixed cost is 500. Or if Q is 3, then it is 332, etc. If it is 4, this will be 250. Is it linear? It's decreasing, of course, but is it decreasing linearly? Is it same, the decreasing ratio? No, it's not. If I write this function as A times Q minus 1, maybe you can tell me the shape of the average fixed cost better.
Hocam azalarak artan diyebilir miyiz?
Azalarak artan mı diyebiliriz? Yok, artıyor mu? Azalarak azalan diyebiliriz belki. Ha? Şöyle hyperbolic. We have a hyperbolic average fixed cost. It's decreasing diminishingly. It's decreasing diminishingly. İkizkenar hiperbol şeklinde, hatta bundan önce esnekliklerden bahsederken konuşmuştuk, hatırlıyor musunuz? Üstü eksi 1 olan talep fonksiyonu için konuşmuştuk. İkizkenar hiperbol biçimindedir diye bir isim verilir demiştik. Izoelastik diment denir buna demiştik. Hep esneklik 1'e eşittir. Burada da bir esneklik konuşacak olsak, yani işte average fixed cost'un output için esnekliği diye bir şey icat edecek olsak, o da her zaman 1'e eşit olacak. Aynı şekilde bir ikizkenar hiperbol şeklinde bir average fixed cost'tan bahsedeceğim. Okay. The third one, it's always decreasing, but it never touches to the horizontal axis. Please notice that when the Q going to the infinite, it will just It will just near and near to the axis, but it never touches to the horizontal axis. It will never go to 0, only in the infinite. The third one, what is the average variable cost? It is the total variable cost over Q. Total variable cost over Q. So when you divide the total variable cost to Q, you will get B plus CQ plus BQ square. Again, we have a squared function, and we have a U-shaped average variable cost because the expected value of D is positive. And finally, average total cost, or simply average cost, which is the total cost over Q. It is A over Q plus B plus CQ plus BQ square. And as you can see, here this part is the average fixed cost, and this part is the average variable cost. So the average cost is the sum of average. Okay, let's start again. Now let's draw these cost functions and try to understand their shapes. And also, the important thing is to understand the expected values of these coefficients, A, B, C, and D. We said that D is a positive coefficient because of the U-shapedness of the marginal cost functions, marginal cost and the average cost functions. And of course, A is positive or 0 if we are talking about there is no fixed cost of production, then A is 0, but it could be positive if there's a fixed cost. So here also we can say that C, the expected value of the C coefficient is negative because it is about the minimum points of the average and marginal cost will be in the positive side of the graph, and the expected value of the B coefficient is also positive. The only C coefficient is negative here that we will see just now. Okay, let's try to draw the total cost functions and total cost, total variable cost, and here marginal cost and average cost functions. Here Q, total cost and the total variable cost in the first one, and in the second one, average cost, marginal cost, and average variable cost. Okay. Firstly, total variable cost, start from the origin, total variable cost, and it's just third degree function. Here we have a turning point, which is important for us, turning point. This turning point means that here we have two parts. Please try to see that. The first part is the total variable cost is increasing diminishingly. Here the total cost, total variable cost is increasing diminishingly. And after this turning point, it starts to increase increasingly, not diminishingly, increasingly. And let's draw the total cost function, which is this total fixed cost. And here we have the coefficient A, which was the total fixed cost in our function A. again until turning point. It increases diminishingly and then it increases increasingly. This is total cost, and you know that the vertical difference between these two is the total fixed cost, which is 8 in this example. Now let's come to the marginal cost. This turning point is important for us for the marginal cost because it's the critical point of the marginal cost. We said that for a third degree total cost function, the marginal cost function will be second degree, 3bq squared 2cq plus b. So it will start from b. So it means that if q is 0, the marginal cost will be b. It decreases and then it increases, U-shape. We have a U-shape because the b coefficient is positive, the expected value of the b coefficient is positive. We have a U-shaped marginal cost. So it will start from B. Of course, we have a negative part of the marginal cost here mathematically, but it's not reasonable to understand a negative cost for the firm. So we just ignore the negative part of the graph. So it will start from B. It decreases. Let's put B somewhere here. Not here. It decreases until the turning point of the total variable, not fixed cost, by the way, this is total variable cost. Oh. Evet Bilge, senden bir tık önce ben söyledim. This is marginal cost. So here this point is the minimum point of the marginal cost. Can you find the minimum point of the marginal cost? Let's write the functions again. Total cost function A plus B Q minus C Q squared. Let's put the expected value of C here plus B Q Q. And the marginal cost is the first derivative, which is B minus 2C Q plus 3bq squared. So what is the minimum? Can you find the minimum point of the marginal cost? What is the marginal cost? Yes, Batuhan, of course we do. We derive to find the minimum point of the marginal cost. We need to derive the marginal cost, which means that it's the second derivative of the total cost function. That's why it's the turning point, of course. So to find the minimum point of the marginal cost, we derive the marginal cost function. So it is minus 2c plus 6bq and equalize it to 0. And equalize it to 0. So you can understand why the expected value of C is negative here, because we find the positive value of Q here, which is Q equal to C over 3B, right? So here, that's right. This is C over 3D, of course, the turning point of the total cost and variable cost function, C over 3D. And let's also draw here the average cost and the average variable cost functions. Average cost function, total cost over Q, A over Q plus B minus CQ plus BQ squared, and average variable cost function is B minus CQ plus BQ squared. So we will locate them. The average cost will above because it's greater than the average variable cost. Please try to see that part. is the average variable cost, and the difference between them is A over Q, which is average fixed cost. Let's draw that. Again, we have two U-shaped functions because of the square functions, and average cost is something like that. Average cost or average total cost, and average variable cost will be located below the average variable cost, and the vertical difference between two of them is will be the average fixed cost, just like that. This was average variable cost. Please try to see that average cost and the average variable cost are not parallel to each other. The vertical difference between average cost and the average variable cost is average fixed cost, right? The vertical difference between these two is total fixed cost, and the vertical difference between these two is average fixed cost. And it just decreases while the level of output increases. Please try to see that. The vertical difference between these two, average cost and average variable cost, is just going smaller and smaller. It is just zero in the infinite. It never touches to each other, just like the shape of, please remember, the shape of average fixed cost. It's always decreasing, we said, but it never goes to zero. Just like here, average cost and the difference, vertical difference between average cost and average variable cost is getting smaller and smaller, but they never intercept each other. Şimdi bir kere de Türkçe söyleyelim. Ortalama maliyetle ortalama değişken maliyet fonksiyonları arasındaki dikey mesafe ortalama sabit maliyeti gösteriyor. İkisi arasındaki farklılık zaten bu, değil mi? Ortalama sabit maliyet bu. ABC. Ve bu ortalama sabit maliyet üretim arttıkça ortalama sabit maliyet sürekli olarak azaldığı için average cost ve average variable cost birbirine giderek daha fazla yaklaşıyor. İkisi birbirine paralel değil, giderek birbirlerine yaklaşıyorlar diyebiliriz. Ama hiçbir zaman da kesişmiyorlar, birbirlerine eşit olmuyorlar. Niye? Average fixed cost hiçbir zaman sıfırlanmıyor. Gittikçe küçülüyor ama sıfırlanmıyor. Another important point here is the minimum point of the average variable cost and the average cost here. Let's say this one is 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. 0.1 is the minimum point of the marginal cost, which is the turning point of the total cost and total variable cost. And the second point, or 0.2, this is 0.1, the minimum point of the marginal cost. The second point is the minimum point of average variable cost. And that's important part because when average variable cost is minimized, it's just equal to the marginal cost. It is the intersection point of the marginal cost and the average variable cost. Please remember the relationship between average and the marginals. Şurada o üçü de tanımlayalım. O ilişkiyi tekrar bir hatırlayalım ondan sonra. Also, the point 3 is the minimum point of the average cost, and at its minimum point, it's just equal to the marginal cost. Please remember the relationship between average and marginals. Boy ortalaması örneğini hatırlıyor musunuz? Üretimde vermiştik. In a distribution, if the marginal is less than the average, sınıfa ortalamadan daha düşük, boyu ortalamadan daha kısa biri girerse bu ortalamayı ne yapıyordu? Aşağı çekiyordu değil mi? Düşürüyordu. Evet Feyza. If marginal is greater than the average. Sınıfa ortalamadan daha uzun boylu birisi girerse bu ortalamayı yükseltiyordu. Eğer sınıfa tam boyu ortalamaya eşit birisi girerse bu ortalamadan herhangi bir değişiklik yaratmıyordu. Değişimin olmadığı yer türevin sıfırlandığı yerdir. Yani kritik noktadır. Ya minimum noktasıdır ya maksimum noktasıdır. Dolayısıyla marjinallerle ortalamalar ortalamanın minimum ya da maksimum noktasında kesişirler. Şimdi bir önceki şekli kirletmeyelim. Burada bir kabaca onu tekrar gösterelim. Şunun üzerinden gösterelim. Average variable cost. By the way. Burada onu göstermedik ama aslında average variable cost'la düzeltmeye çalışalım. Average variable cost'la marginal cost'un başlangıç noktası da aynı değil mi? Bakın average variable cost'ta da burada B var. Q sıfırsa B'ye eşit. Bu da Q sıfırsa B'ye eşit. Dolayısıyla onu da buradan B'den aslında başlaması gerekiyor. Tamam, 2 numaralı noktaya gidelim. Böyle. Gittikçe aradaki fark küçülüyor. İşte 2 numaralı nokta. Tamam mıyız? Şimdi gelelim bu average variable cost da marginal cost. İkisi de U-shape. Şurası da kesişim noktası. Bunu böyle ikiye böldüm. Part 1, Part 2. Within the first part, please try to see that the marginal cost is just below the average variable cost. Here, marginal cost is less than the average variable cost. That's why average variable cost is decreasing. And within the second part, the marginal cost is above the average variable cost. And that's why the average variable cost increases. And just in the intersection point here, in this point, marginal cost equal to average variable cost at his minimum point, in the critical point. Okay. Bunu hiç unutmayalım. Marjinallerle ortalamalar arasındaki ilişkiyi, marjinaller ortalamaları her zaman ya minimum ya da maksimum hangisi varsa noktasında kesiyorlar. Dolayısıyla da buraya tekrar geri dönelim orijinal şeklimize. Point 2 is the minimum point of the average variable cost, and the marginal cost just intersects the average variable cost function at this point, and also it's valid for the average cost function. Her ikisini de minimum noktasından kesiyor marjinal alet. Şimdi, now at the end of the first classroom, we try to relate short-run production function to the short-run cost functions, and we will finish. Okay, the relationship between short-run cost functions and the short-run production functions. Short-run production function and cost functions. We will have 4 graphs. These graphs are not is not included or is not consisted in your textbook, but I find it necessary to understand the relationship between production and the costs functions, the relationship between them, it's important. So let's try to understand and listen carefully. In the first two graphs, we will put the short-run production function. So here, let's remember the production function. We have a short-run production function of labor and capital, which capital stay constant and the labor is variable. So here we put labor, and here the level of output or total product of labor is also can be used. Here labor and marginal product of labor and average product of labor. And in the second part, we will put the level of output to the horizontal axis, and here we have total variable cost. Here we will ignore or not consider the fixed costs, because here we do not have anything about the fixed factor capital. So that's why we will not see the total, not the total cost and also the fixed cost here in this part. Just like in the second part, we will only look at the average variable cost and the marginal cost. We will not put the average cost here because it includes average fixed cost. Sol tarafta sabit olan faktörle ilgili bir analiz yapmayacağımız için üretim kısmında sabit olan faktörle capital ile ilgili bir analiz yapmayacağımız için sağ tarafta da ona ilişkin maliyet olan sabit maliyetlerle ilgili herhangi bir grafiği çizmeyeceğiz. Sadece değişken faktörü ve o değişken faktörün yarattığı değişken maliyetleri dikkate alacağız. Peki, şimdi gelelim buraya. Üretim fonksiyonumuzu hatırlayalım. It was a three-part short-run production. We have three-part short-run production function. It starts from the origin. It increases rapidly. Then we have a turning point, and after that turning point, it increases diminishingly. Then it's maximized, and then it starts to decrease. Here we have a turning point. And this was the maximum point. This turning point was important for the marginal product of labor. The marginal product of labor starts from the origin. It maximized at the turning point of the production function. And also this maximum point is important for us. And it's just marginal product of labor is becoming zero at the maximum point of the total product of labor. This was the marginal product of labor. And we also have the average product of labor. It's just like that, average product of labor. And this was the maximum point of the marginal product, not average product of labor. It is just equal to marginal product of labor at its maximum point. Also, we separated this graph into three sections. Part 1 or stage 1, stage 2 of the production, and stage 3 of the production. In which stage firm prefer to produce in the short run? First stage, second stage, or third stage? Yes, you are right. The firm is preferring to produce at the second stage, we learned. Good. Now, please try to see that the variable cost of this firm, if this firm is producing something by using only labor and capital, and if labor is the variable factor, then the payment to the labor is the total variable cost, and the payment to the capital is the total fixed cost of the firm. So the source of the cost functions here we will draw is just the production function. Let's draw the total variable cost. We have two parts. it will start from the origin, because when there is no output, the firm is not using any labor, so there will be no payment to the labor. So because the production function is starting from the origin, then the total variable cost function will start from the origin. When there is no output, there will be no use of labor, so no payment to the labor. So it will start from the origin. Then when the firm starts to employ the labor, the level of output increases increasingly. It means that the total variable cost of this labor will increase diminishingly. Then we have a turning point here, and then starts the total variable cost starts to increase increasingly. So these turning points are just similar to each other. The location of the turning points are just similar, which means that the turning point of the production function here, suppose that at Q1, so this turning point is also at Q1. And please remember that turning point is also the minimum point of the marginal cost. And it is the maximum point of the marginal product of labor. Let's put point 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. The turning point of the short-run production function is just the turning point of the total variable cost, and it is the maximum point of the marginal product of labor. The marginal product is maximized at the Q1 output level, which means that marginal cost is minimized at Q1 output level. Bu iki grafiği, marginal product of labor'ı, marginal cost'u birbirinin tam zıttı gibi düşünebilirsiniz arkadaşlar. Here we have two parts of the marginal product of labor. It's the productivity of the labor. It is the productivity of the labor. We have one increasing part for the marginal product of labor when the firm employing more and more labor until point 1 here, until Q1 output level. The productivity of labor increases. And because their productivity increases, the marginal cost created to the firm by these productive labor, is just decreasing. So the increasing marginal product of labor means decreasing marginal cost of labor. These marginal cost is just created by the labor. So because their productivity is increasing, the level of output increases increasingly. The extra cost created by each new labor is just decreasing. Then after point 1, the marginal product of labor starts to decrease. So the productivity of the labor after point 1 decreases, which means that the marginal cost created by these unproductive or the less productive labors is just increasing. So the decreasing marginal product of labor means that increasing marginal cost. Just like marginal product of labor and the marginal cost, average product of labor and the average variable cost is just the reverse of each other. Let's draw the average variable cost here also. Again, we will start from the same point. And here, this point is the minimum point of the average variable cost. Let's say this is point 2. With another color. This is point 2, and it's point 2 here also. And until point 2 until point 2 was the stage 1 of the production, and it is the stage 1 of the cost functions. So again, we have two parts of average product of labor, increasing part and decreasing part. And here also we have two parts of average variable cost. While the average productivity of labor is increasing, let's write it here. While the average product of labor is increasing, then the average variable cost created by these labors is just decreasing. And the same when the second part of the production, average product of labor, starts to decrease. And this point is also same here. Let's also write it. Here in this point, at the maximum point of the average product of labor, the level of output, let's say Q2, and this point is also Q2. So after the Q2 output level, because average product of labor starts to decrease here after this point, and it means that the average variable cost of this labor will increase. And please try to see that at point 2, average product of labor and the marginal product of labor are equal to each other when average product of labor is maximized, and also at point 2 at the cost side, average variable cost and the marginal cost equal to each other while average variable cost is minimized. So average product of labor is maximized and average variable cost is minimized at the same output level, Q2 output level. Peki, burada bırakalım. Bunu tekrardan çarşamba günü çizeceğim. Çok sona denk geldi. Daha detaylı bir şekilde göreceğiz. Çarşamba günü tekrar buradan devam edeceğiz arkadaşlar. Sorunuz yoksa tamamlayalım dersiniz.
Hocam benim bir sorum olacak da.
Tabii Mehmetcan.
Bu dersin başında da söylemiştiniz işleyeceğimiz chapter'ları. Atlayacağımız chapter var mı hocam? Ben PDF'ten çıkartacağım da.
Bildiğim kadarıyla yok. Yani bazı bütün olarak atlayacağımız bir chapter yok ama bazı chapter'larda bazı yerlere exclude edebiliriz. Ona henüz daha şimdiden söylemeyeyim ama böyle bütünüyle hani 5. chapter gibi bunu hiç yapmayacağız dediğimiz bir chapter yok.
Tamam hocam. Çok teşekkürler.
Pekala. Peki o zaman görüşmek üzere çarşamba günü arkadaşlar. Hoşçakalın.